Hey guys, welcome back to Axes and Allies, the Garrison. This is Dtroy coming to you from the bunker here in Rochelle Park, New Jersey, with a customizations episode. Okay, this video today is a special video because not too long ago, one of my subscribers by the name of Ben Bertrand asked me the question of how it is that I go about introducing that old, aged, and weathered look to my painted pieces. All right. Well, there are many techniques, okay, and you ask just about anybody out there who is customizing their pieces. They have their own way of introducing that aged, weathered look to their pieces. All right. So what I do though, my technique that I most use is a technique called dry brushing. Okay, dry brushing is a very simple, easy to use, easy to master technique. All right. You'll see in this video how I go about applying dry brushing. The beautiful thing about what the video today that I'm showing you is that it's basically geared for anybody. If you have not yet started painting your pieces and you want to go ahead and do so, I suggest that you watch this video and that you take the tips and tutorial components of this video and use it for your own projects at home with your Axis and Allies games. Okay, I very much emphasize and I advise people that to go ahead and paint. Okay, you'll be surprised at how much better your gaming experience can get as a consequence or a result of you going about painting your own pieces. Guys, I really do hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think, and I really do hope that what you learn here you can apply with your own pieces. Hey YouTube, welcome back. This is Detroit, and here we are at the Garrison today. I'm planning to actually paint these customized sculpts. Okay, they're all from HBG. Here you have two Tiger tanks, three Panther tanks, and one Bismarck battleship or pocket battleship of the German Navy. Okay, one of my subscribers by the name of Ben Bertrand asked me a few days ago if I could show him how it is that I go about introducing that aged look to my customized pieces. Okay, so it's actually been quite a while since I last painted anything, since I've been so busy with the channel overall. And as you guys know, I've been very involved with the YouTube wars. I've also been very busy playing here at the Garrison with the regular crew of guys that come here to the Garrison. So I've been busy and I really haven't had the time to paint as much as I once used to. So yes, Ben Bertrand reached out to me and asked me a simple question. Okay, so what I'm planning to do here is actually planning to actually be able to paint these pieces using a very simple technique that was developed by my good friend Jeff, who's one of the regulars here at the Garrison. Okay, for those of you who know me know that when I first started out painting my customized pieces, I would use acrylic water-based paints. Okay, and I would actually hand brush. I would prime them, and then I would introduce the color. Camel color schemes that I would use for my pieces. So that was my old technique, and I pretty much still prefer that technique. But the technique that I'm using here today is one that I borrowed from Jeff, and it's one where he uses color spray paint or model spray paint to actually go ahead and paint. Okay, and then of course to get that desired to paint your pieces and to get that desired effect of the aged look, will be using a technique called dry brushing. Okay, which is a very simple technique. It's not that complicated. It's not that hard. But it just takes a little practice, and once you get the hang of it, it's actually very easy to implement when painting. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try not to make a big mess here in the Garrison. I'm going to see if I step out into my garage, so just bear with me and see if I can apply primer paint, and I'm going to be using Krylon Color Master spray paint. This is color gray, and this can you could pick up at any hardware store or Walmart for like about $6-7 a can. This type of paint, it's affordable. You can use it as a primer for your pieces. And of course, it's not going to be the final color, but it will act as a primer, and it will act. It will seal in the plastic, and it will allow the later paint that you will apply, and will allow it to adhere with much more ease. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the paint, the spray paint, as my primer on these sculpts. Okay, so here we are. I'm actually in my garage right now, so just bear with me. Here we go. Now, the idea is not to overspray. You want to apply short spritzes on the sculpts, so this way you don't drench them. You don't want that. You want to actually just apply a light layer of paint or aerosol on the sculpts themselves. So here we go. This is what you want to do when you're applying your primer paint on your sculpts, okay? Anytime you're applying any sort of spray paint on any sculpts, you just want to apply a very light layer. You don't want to kill or drench the sculpt, because what that does is that it kills the detail. At least I think it does. So you want those details to pop out later on when you start finally applying the paint on your sculpts, okay? All right, so here we go. Okay, that's about one application. I will come back. I guess like maybe an additional layer or two will do the job. Okay, so that's it. I'll wait for this to dry, and then we'll come back and apply a second layer. A second layer will turn the sculpts upside down, and then apply spray paint to the bottom of the sculpts. Okay. All right. And if I hadn't mentioned, these are actually 2 Tiger tanks that I have here, 3 Panthers, and the German pocket battleship, the Bismarck. Okay. And the idea then is, once I have applied the primer, and the primer has dried, has cured, we will then go ahead and apply the paint or color scheme of my choice that I think would work well with my collection. Okay, and once that's done, we'll introduce the dry brushing that Ben asked about, and we'll be back. All right, so once we get that done, you'll see that the detail on these sculpts will just pop out. Okay, so the paint on top of the sculpt has pretty much dried already. I'm going to go ahead and do the same. I'm going to paint the bottom end of these sculpts. Okay, so here we go again. Same technique, just using very light spritzes. There we go. Very light. You don't want to drench your sculpts, because if you do so, you're going to, I believe, kill much of the detail that are inherent in these sculpts. Okay, so it's very light. Here we go. All right, so I'll do this, once the paint cures, I'll do this at least one more time to ensure that all the nooks and crannies are covered and that we have a good primer base on these sculpts. Okay, now once this is done, I will go ahead and do a repeat, but this time with the color scheme of my choice. All right, so here we are. The primer has actually dried already, and these sculpts are ready for the color spray paint to be applied. Okay, so the color spray paint that I'm going to be using is from Model Master, and it's a German Panzer Gray. Now these you can find, I think they go for about between $6, $7, or $8 a bottle. They're a little expensive. You don't get that much of them. Of course, this is the German Panzer Gray, but they're excellent quality, and these are the ones that the type of model spray paint that you want to use. Okay, now the primer has already cured. It's all dried, and these sculpts are now ready for the application of the color scheme that we've chosen here. So let's go ahead and apply the paint. Okay, so again, you want to shake the bottle really well. This way the aerosol applies smoothly on the sculpts, okay? And make certain that, once again, short spritzes is the best way to go, okay? And it's gonna take a couple of, at least 2, maybe 3 layers before the sculpts are fully covered with the paint that you're using, okay? So let's go ahead and do that right now. Okay, here we go. Oh, a little bit too much there. So you gotta be careful when you first start painting, because sometimes the first spritz can be a little bit too much. So just be careful when applying your paint, all right? So here we go. Again, same thing. Just short spritzes really quick, all right? All right, as you can see, the paint is applying very nicely on the sculpts. And you want to do short spritzes because you don't want to drench the sculpts with too much paint, because then the details will hide. Okay, you want those details to pop out later on when you apply the dry brushing technique. Okay, so we're going to repeat this with the bottom end of the sculpts, and we're going to at the very least apply 2 layers of this color scheme, which is again the German Panzer Gray. All right, Model Master Series. The paint is pretty much cured at this point in time. We're going to go ahead and apply the German Panzer Gray on the bottom end of the sculpt. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Again, short spritzes. There you go. Nothing too intense. Okay, and once again, I think I'll probably apply another layer, both top and bottom, and that should do it. Okay, I mean, this is the color scheme that I've chosen. Okay, now this is a very simple technique. I'm not going to apply any combination of camouflage or anything like that. This is a technique that can be utilized for any beginner. If you're just starting out painting your collection, this is the way to go. It's very simple. You apply the primer. After that, you apply your paint of choice. And then once you do so, okay, you apply the dry brushing technique, which is the next step. All right, so here we have our partially painted sculpts. We have already applied the primer, okay? And now we have gone ahead and, of course, applied the German Panzer Gray color scheme that we want to use for this particular color scheme. Okay, so the idea though is to now that we have done taken these 2 steps, we're going to go ahead and apply the dry brushing technique that would allow for all the details on the sculpts to come right out. Okay, so if that's all you do, that's fine. Okay, this is a simple, easy to use technique that any beginner or someone who's planning to start painting their pieces can use to start painting their own collection. All right, so first of all, you're going to need a broad tip brush. All right, basically your paint that you're going to use, either a white or a beige color. If you have used a darker color scheme for your sculpts, then you want to use something lighter, and vice versa. Same thing. If you're using a lighter paint, then you want to use a darker color for your dry brushing. All right, so it works either way. The idea is to bring out the details by introducing contrast on the sculpt itself. Okay, so you're also going to use either some sort of dish, all right, or some sort of a receptacle where you could apply your paint. All right, so, and of course I use a regular syringe to water down the paint. So in this instance, I'm going to be using a white acrylic water-based paint that I'll be using for my dry brush. All right, guys, so it's been a few days since I last started making this episode or this video, where I'm going to be using a technique called dry brushing, where it's a technique basically that will enhance the details that come incorporated into each sculpt. Okay, so it's a simple technique. Once you master it, it's really not that hard to master, but once you do get the hang of it, you'll see that it's very easy, and it's a quick way to bring out the details that are incorporated within each sculpt. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is that I've actually gone ahead and I've poured some white acrylic paint. These paints you can find for $1 or $2 at any craft store, Michael's or whatnot. You could even find, I think you can even find these at in Walmart's. Okay, so I've gone ahead and poured a couple of drops of paint along with a couple of drops of water. The rule of thumb is 1 drop of paint, 1 drop of water. And the reason is because this paint can sometimes get a little bit thick. So if you want to dilute the paint as much as possible, this way the paint that you're working with becomes a lot easier to handle. Okay, so you're also going to need a broad tipped brush. Okay, these I would say again you could find in any uh, arts and craft store, and they go for like about $3, $4, $5 a piece, maybe a little bit more, depending on where you go and the quality of the brush. Okay, so you want something that is broad, that has a thick end to it. This way you could apply the paint nicely on the sculpt. Okay, so of course I am using white because we're using the type of a paint that we're using is German Panzer Gray that we have here. Okay, this will be my final color. Okay, and you want to use a paint that will contrast the the paint that you're going to use as your dry brush paint. You want it to contrast to the color that is already on the sculpt itself. Okay, so let me go ahead and do that. All right, so all right, you're also going to need either a thick piece of paper towel or a piece of cloth. Okay, either one works well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, dip my brush into my paint. All right, then I'm going to just dry the brush on the paper towel. Okay. I guess this is part of the reason why it's called dry brushing. All right, and what you want to do is you want to make sure that this brush is as dry as you possibly can get it. Okay, you don't want any paint to transfer onto any surface easily. You want it to be very hard. Okay, so see how much I'm getting some paint transfer still on my glove there. You don't want that. Okay, you want it to be as dry as you possibly can. The drier the better. That's why hence dry brushing. Let's do the hand test. See, now this time you have almost no to very little transfer. All right, okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and paint the sculpt. Okay, let me see if I get my focus in order here. All right, I'm new to this phone, so I have not yet done any customizations using it, so obviously it's not as easy as I thought. All right, there we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly brush over the sculpt, okay, itself. And it's going to be light, quick strokes on the surface of the sculpt. Very easy. And you can see right away that the paint is lightly transferring over to the sculpt itself. Okay, and of course what this does is that it automatically highlights the details that come built into the sculpt itself. All right, which side? This is the side that I need to do, I guess. There we go. So let's go ahead, let's continue. You want to do the edges first. Okay, and you can see that outline where the wooden deck would end and the hull of the ship would start. There's a thin straight line, and you do that by just stroking the edge right there like that, or painting over the edge very carefully. All right, you could do the same thing on the other side. Same thing. Okay, I go by the rule of thumb that less paint is better, so you don't have to go crazy with dry brushing in order to bring out all the details on the sculpt. Okay, there you go, quick brushes. Just make sure, folks, that when you do this, that you make certain that your brush is as absolutely dry as possible, because if you don't do that, what's going to happen is that you're going to have a lot of paint transferring over to your sculpt, and you don't want that happening. All right, so, and it's going to look very sloppy, it's going to look dirty, and it's going to be a bit of an overkill when you're not careful. All right. All right, I don't know if you guys can see that, but already you can see that a lot of the detail is coming up. It's already popping up, and it's giving the sculpt that aged, weathered look that a lot of customizers, or a lot of Axis and Allies gamers want on their pieces, and they're always worried about how do I introduce so much detail, how do I go about doing so. And a lot of people think that you spend these long hours with a fine tip brush introducing detail. Well, if you are that excited and you really want to get into painting your pieces, then that's one way of doing it also. But if you want a quick way of bringing out the details on your sculpts, this is probably the easiest way, or one of the easiest way that you can go about doing this. All right, so somebody's trying to call me, then let me cancel that call. It's actually Jeff, one of my buddies who's he's become a great customizer in his own right. And it's interesting that I'm making this video and he's the one that's calling me right now. It's you guys should go ahead and check out his videos. We've done a couple of we've done some collaborative work in the past, and his his work, his sculpts are just absolutely fantastic. All right, so again, less is more. All right, so there you go. You can see some of the detail already coming out. Now, if you want to go ahead, okay, you can go on, and try to paint the turrets, maybe the funnel, some of the barrels, some of the gun emplacements, all that stuff you could do if you wish to also. It's a great idea. You could also, if you want to even further introduce more detail on the sculpt, you could then go ahead and get a metallic paint. Okay, again, same technique, using dry brushing. You can then apply the brush by using the same technique with metallic paint, and you could do that also, and that will give this sculpt additional detail. So it's all up to what you want to do, okay, as far as imagination is concerned. All right, so there it is. This piece, I would say, is ready. It's a quick paint job, guys. Anybody can do this. Anybody can go ahead, go to your local hobby shop, buy any sort of paint. For instance, in this case, you're using German Panzer Gray. Apply your base, then apply the German Panzer Gray, then go ahead with the dry brushing. Simple, okay? No big deal. Of course, once you do this, you must also then apply a layer of, or spray this down with a layer of clear coating, okay? And the reason for that is you need the clear coat, and make sure it's flat clear coat, by the way. This way, the paint job that you just made or did will be protected, will be sealed in, and the piece will be, I guess, will be resistant to damage. Let's put it that way. Let me just show you. Let me get up here for a second, and I'll be back in a second. All right. Okay, so the clear coat that I use in order to protect my game pieces is this one. Okay, it's I don't know if you can see it there. Let me bring the camera up a bit. It's the Krylon Clear Coat Flat Finish. Again, you could find these, this brand at Walmart or any hobby shop that you know, or any arts and crafts store. They're very, very affordable. I think they go for like $7. You can also find them at any Home Depot or Lowe's hardware store. All right, so let's go ahead and continue, okay, with the other pieces that we have here. I have a couple of German armored units or tanks. Again, same thing. You want to make sure that this brush is very, very dry. Okay, the drier the better. Interestingly enough, you think that the more paint the better. No, it's actually works the other way around. The less paint on your brush, the better off you're going to be. Okay, so let's take let's do the hand trick here, the skin test. Yeah, very little paint is transferring over, as you can see. Okay, now this is a glove, black latex glove, and you can see that very little paint is actually transferring over to the latex glove. So let's go ahead with a German Tiger tank. All right, and I usually start by grabbing the barrel, and I'd like to do the sides first. You know, there we go. Let me see. There we go. And right away, you can see how the tracks just coming out, the details in the tracks just coming out. There you go. Let me see that. Up, down, side to side. Let me show you guys. Can you see that? See, already you have that weathered look. You can see that this tank has been on the Eastern Front engaging Soviet ground units. It's been out there already. And that look is achieved by the dry brushing technique. All right, see the difference? I don't know if you can appreciate it in the camera as much. All right, but see, now let me do this side. I'm gonna go ahead. And guys, I apologize for having taken so long making this video. I know that a couple of you guys, I believe Ben Bertrand was the first one to ask me, but a couple of you guys have been asking me to do something like this for a while, but it's just that I am so busy. As you guys know, I'm putting out a lot of content recently with the YouTube wars, and it's actually very demanding. I'm making a video just about every day, or if not every other day. Very time consuming, and of course, as you well know, I'm busy with my personal life as well. Family, kids, career, you know, everyday things that need to be resolved around the house. So I've had very little time to actually get this project or this video completed. So I apologize for having taken longer than what I had thought I would. All right. So you can see, don't forget to do the tracks also as well. Okay, because the tracks, there's a lot of details on the tracks. Okay, there you go. Okay, there you go. Now, do you see that? Okay, do you see the difference between this tank that I just dry brushed and this one? This is a Tiger tank as well. And you can see right away the difference. It's just absolutely fantastic. It's amazing how much of a difference a little dry brush could do. It's just the difference is amazing. And it's a simple technique, nothing complicated, very easy. Having said this once again, if you guys want to go ahead, all right, and you want to introduce, and you want to paint the tracks black or metallic, if you want to introduce some brown coloring in there, okay, to show mud, okay, you could do it. Okay, if you want to paint some, you know, little details on the top of the turrets or the back, or maybe these funnels in the back, you may want to paint them black or brown. You know, I like to paint my tracks black, okay, and then do a little bit dry brushing over that. I mean, the sky's the limit with what you can do. Use your imagination. All right, so you know, you could do the dry brushing before or after you apply your detail work. It doesn't really matter. It's all a personal preference. You know, you guys should find out what works best for you. Okay. See that? I like also to, the barrel, the very end here, I like to paint them black right here to show that this tank has been in action, that there's been, you know, it's been engaging the enemy, and that it's blackened out the tip of the barrel already. I like to do that as well, okay, to introduce some realism onto the sculpt. Okay, let me get some more paint here. Again, I'm going to see if I do a Panther tank. Again, I want to make sure this brush is very, very dry. The drier, the better. Less is more, guys. Less is more. All right. All right. Okay, the glove test. See? Not a lot of paint transferring over. Okay, you could do this to ensure that not a lot of paint is transferring over. All right, let's take a Panther tank now. Let's do this one. I had Matt Todd come over. He was on a business trip, he and his wife. Matt Todd is one of my subscribers, and not too long ago he reached out to me because he wanted to come over to the garrison. He was here on a business trip in the city, and he asked me if he could come over to the garrison. And of course, I'm more than glad to have people come over to the garrison. So Matt is a guy that has been customizing. I think Matt lives in Nevada. That's besides the point, though. But he lives in, I think he lives in the Southwest, in Nevada, and he came over to the garrison. He and his wife were here. They were here for a couple of hours, and I was showing them around, and he asked me to give him a few tips on how to start painting his own pieces, and I showed him this very same technique, and I think he was actually a little bit surprised at how easy it was and how quickly I was able to paint the sculpts. I had a couple of pieces here that were already primed, and all I did was pick up a brush, dip the brush in paint, and do the dry brushing. And he was just, I think I could see the surprise in his face at how easy it actually was to introduce some detail onto your sculpts. Okay. There's another technique, and I'm not going to show you that today, but there's another technique where it's called a wash. Basically, what you do is you get a cup of water, and in that cup of water you throw in a couple of drops of paint, and you let it mix. Then you dip your brush, okay, into that cup of water with basically dirty water with some paint in it. That's what it looks like. And then you just apply that wash on top of your sculpts. And let me tell you, that also is a great way to apply detail. I've done it, and I'm not a big fan of it because I like to use dry brushing more often than not. But I've done some I've used the wash technique, and that works just as well, I would say, in some situations. But I still think that you get more of a bang for your dollar with a dry brushing technique. Okay, so now hope you guys can see that. I mean, the camera really doesn't help out as much, but there it is. You can see the details just right out popping out. And look, this is the one I just painted, and this is the one that I have not painted. Can you guys see the difference? Okay. Again, once you paint them with the dry brushing technique, you have to go ahead and prime it with the Krylon matte finish clear coating. All right, and that will seal in the work that you just did, and it will make the game piece a lot more resistant to wear and tear. Remember, these pieces you're going to be using for gameplay. All right. There you go, guys. All right, this is my brush, my little receptacle here just about dried out. In any case, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and finish painting these, all right? And I'll show you the end product, and you'll see how they look once they're fully completed. I'm gonna see if I do a little detail work, and then you'll see the entirety of the collection completed. But then you don't have to do that. Keep in mind that it's not necessary to go into details, all right? All you gotta do is base these sculpts. Once you base them or prime them, you go ahead and introduce your color scheme, just a basic color, all right? Whatever it is, spray it down, and then go ahead and do the dry brushing. And finally, after the dry brushing, apply your Krylon matte finish clear coating, and that will do the trick. This is a technique that just about anybody can do, especially if you're just starting out, all right? And I guarantee it, you will not be disappointed. Okay. All right, guys, I hope you have found this video helpful, and that you can start incorporating your own customized painted pieces into your own gaming experience. I've always said that playing Axis and Allies with customized game pieces is like nothing else. Okay, there is no going back. Your gaming experience will be enhanced, and there's a definite feel, a new feel to the game, and you won't go back. Guys, as I like to say, don't forget to bunker down and play.